So today's workshop is all about role play. When a member comes into the studio and they tell you that they're pregnant for the first time and you're not caught off guard and you know how to address it, you know how to modify for them to keep them comfortable and confident and just be able to communicate well with those pre and postnatal members. Today's workshop is mostly around pregnancy in general rather than postpartum, but almost every single modification that you're going to use for pregnancy, you can also use for postpartum and early postpartum. So when a member first tells you, I can't even tell you the number of times that I have been the first person besides the husband or the doctor that has been told I'm pregnant. A lot of people will message me on Instagram or they'll tell me in the studio and they'll be like, I'm 5 weeks pregnant. I just took a test like yesterday. I'm pregnant. What do I do? It's kind of special because you're one of those people that's kind of like in their inner circle then, like you're trying to care for them and they want that care, they want the excitement. A lot of times you're going to be hush hush. So I'm keeping that in mind when you go into these situations is if a member is super early in their pregnancy and they don't want it out in the open, out in the public, how you can address pregnancy modifications if they need them at an early stage without spilling the beans for them in the middle of class. But basically, this is the framework that you're going to go into before class starts. When someone tells you, you're going to respond with confidence, like, congratulations, you're pregnant, that's awesome. Or congratulations, like, I'll keep my mouth shut for you. But you don't want to have any hesitation there. You don't want to be like taken aback and be like, oh, shoot, a million things are running through your head. Like, I didn't prep class for modifications for a pregnant person because I didn't know anyone was pregnant coming into class today. So respond with confidence. That's number one. Always ask a couple of questions. We'll go through these questions that you need to ask before class starts, if possible, and explain how class is going to work. I will try to give demonstrations in the beginning that also are modifications for you specifically, but also for the whole class if they need them. Make sure if you have enough time, if that member comes in early enough and you aren't like running to the mic or setting up music, that you can run through a couple modifications, bring them to the station specifically or show them where it is on the screen. Call out those because like that visual cue is really going to help, or putting them where that station is and be like, this is a good modification for this core exercise that you're going to see today. And then reinforce confidence at the end. So I'm going to go through what each of those 5 steps are, but the beginning is reassuring the member. You always want to praise them for showing up to class. It's like a big step. I know a lot of people are either very hesitant to show up to class if they're pregnant. They don't know how the coach is going to be able to coach them well if they're not sure if they have proper training, or they're nervous that they're going to, hurt themselves or the baby in some way. So encouraging them, reinforcing that this is amazing for them to show up is so, so key. It also gives them assurance that you're going to take care of them as their coach. Like, this is your job and you're going to be able to do it well because you have had some training. So that's my goal today, is just give you some pieces that you can pull easily. There's going to be a ton of scripts in here, specific things that you can say. My goal with this is that you can personalize it for each member. So not every member is going to be the same, but kind of filling it out based on their personality, based on what you've seen in class before, if you've had them, trained them before, and then you can modify your speech as you go through. But encourage them, encourage their desire to take care of themselves, and make sure you're empowering them. So at all steps of the process, whether it's in the middle of class and they're modifying and you're like, you really do need to modify this, make sure it's still an encouraging way that you're going to speak to them. So for example, avoid things like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting you to say that. We'll have to be really careful with these core moves today. Try not to say really careful. Careful is like kind of a scary term for some people. Then they feel like things aren't safe. And safety isn't really the main reason that we're going to modify during pregnancy. It's more like to give the person better support rather than things aren't specifically that safe. Most things are safe. It's just they're not as effective for you anymore when you're a certain amount of time throughout pregnancy. And instead of saying you probably shouldn't be doing most of this, give them encouragement like, oh, we might need to modify a couple exercises, but you're going to feel really confident and I'll show you how to do those well so that it's more effective, it's more supportive for you and your body. And again, reassure them throughout. Make sure you say, my job is to help you feel strong. It's almost like you're telling yourself that you're confident so you can train them well, but also so that member feels reassured in that. So a couple questions to ask. There's a bunch here. You do not need to ask all of them. But if you don't know how far along they are, make sure you ask that. Some people don't tell you until they're like 20 weeks pregnant, when a lot of people do tend to need modifications. And at that point, that can be kind of distracting for you. You're like, oh, I didn't expect you to say 20 weeks pregnant. Some people, especially with their first baby, show a lot later. So you might not have any idea that they're pregnant and they're telling you that late. And then some people, again, like I said, it's like 5 weeks and they're telling you. That does matter. In the beginning, it's more dizziness that you need to be aware of. I know that my first 2 pregnancies, I didn't experience that much of it, but this pregnancy, I couldn't do anything on the ground and then stand up without feeling extremely dizzy. Like I had to hold on to the wall. So look out for dizziness. Make sure you ask them that. How are you feeling? Do you have any energy, nausea? Has your doctor told you to avoid anything? Make sure you ask them that. A lot of doctors, I should say, are very careful in the terms that they use. So they usually bucket almost every woman in the same way. Like if someone was working out, for like years before and they're very active, and then someone who's never worked out, usually doctors say, oh, at X amount of weeks, you should probably not run anymore. And it's too bucketed of a term. But if a doctor is telling them to do something specifically or avoid something, make sure you do abide by that. And then some people have certain indications that they need to scale off quite a bit during pregnancy. So just be aware of what the doctor might give them advice for. And then how active have you been? Before pregnancy, have they showed up a ton in the studio? Are they like someone who's a regular, or is this like their very first time in the studio and they're just trying to be safe or like good at working out and fit for themselves and baby? So good to ask those questions. And do you have any concerns or questions? That's probably my most important question that I would ask a member. Some people are like, no, like I got this. I just want to let you know as my coach that I am pregnant, right? And a lot of times people have done their own research in the back end and they know kind of how to modify. And then some people are like, I have all of the questions in the world. I have no idea what I'm doing. Please help me as much as you can. So ask them if they have any concerns or questions. These are basically a bunch of scripts that you can pull out as your repertoire. You can just have them on hand. We'll just tweak a couple things so they will support your body better. Instead of saying, let's not do that, I see you coning a lot, right? So we want to avoid a fear and something they're doing wrong and encourage how we can help them work out more effectively in class. The goal is to keep you strong, not exhausted. Some women, especially in their first trimester or their third trimester, really struggle with energy. And if they are leaving class and they're just absolutely wiped, like good for them, but also it might hurt them later on in terms of like having no energy for the rest of their day if they have to go to work, if they have to deal with kids at home or do anything else and they're just laying on the bed. Maybe it will discourage them from coming to class next time. So scale back if you need to. We want to keep you strong, not like you're going to pass out in class, keeping you energized, not drained or dizzy. I'm here to guide you. Like I'm coming alongside of you. I'm not like here to tell you exactly what you should or shouldn't do. I'm here to help you work out more in a supportive way for you and listen to your body. Like some people will come in and they are absolutely drained and they're just like showing up to show up because they want to get a workout in. Like, how's your energy today? Because like other members in class, pregnancy can wipe you out for the day. So make sure they, I would say, let you know, or you that when you're going around to them and they're not working out as hard as you've seen them work out in the past, whether you need to encourage them to work harder because they need that motivation, or if you're there just to support them, be like, good job, like you're doing a great job in the pace that you're going for yourself. So like having that guidance is kind of key in the beginning so that you don't push them too hard if they're already just like, I'm literally just surviving in class today, rather than like, I need that extra motivation, that extra push today. So just be aware of that. Prep yourself, make sure you have modifications for a number of exercises, especially the core ones that you can just pull out like that. Go over them in the demos if possible, but know your modifications before you show up to class. If you have time, make sure you go over those with the member before class. Some classes, you have like 8 modifications that you might need for like a third trimester woman. You can't go through all of them. A lot of times they show up like 2 minutes before class. Go through at least 1 or 2 most core intensive exercises that you're like, I know for sure I need to get these to the member before class, so that you're not like running around in the middle of class trying to find them, knowing that they're going to this station, or you're too late when you already get there. So just be able to show at least one or two of the most core intensive ones. That's what I would pull out first. And then as you go through class, make sure you just keep an eye on that pregnant person. Just like if someone have an ankle injury and they're doing jumping lunges and you want to encourage them not to do that, keep that eye out for anyone who's pregnant. If you know that they're heading to a station next or soon, or that they might need you, they might cue to you to come to them. Just have like your eye always scanning the room for those members in case they need that extra care, especially if you didn't get to be able to modify anything or show demos for them before class started. Just because a member is pregnant and going to a core exercise does not mean that they automatically need a modification for that exercise. Most circumstances, unless it's like blatantly obvious, I would always cue the form first, how to engage your core, how to breathe properly during exercise. Maybe you reset them into a regular standing position or the starting position before you go into the movement again, and they continue to do reps before you give them a modification. A lot of times members who have been working out throughout before pregnancy, and then they show up to class and they're like, I don't really need to modify this. Why are you telling me to modify this? They're not coning, they're fine. But you're like, ooh, they're pregnant, they can't do this. Please cue them form first. We want to still keep them in the closest exercise to what is on screen as possible until they really need a modification, so that they feel confident they're still getting an awesome workout in no matter what. And then you can give them modifications as needed. And your confidence becomes her confidence. Again, be confident in yourself, what you're saying, and what you can deliver for those members. So when we're coaching core exercises, there's a bunch of scripts that we can use, but always cue breath. Breath is the most important thing ever for engaging your core properly. So you always think exhale first before you get into any movement. So if you're at the top of a squat, you're going to exhale first to lift your pelvic floor and bring your core in, almost like you're zipping up a pair of jeans as low as you can imagine up to your upper abs. And then you can move through the exercise. Okay, so always say, let's exhale first, let's set you up properly and get you in a good, comfortable position, and then let's go through the exercise. You can also say, I want your core to be working with your breath, not pushing out against it. That's a good cue you can use. If you see people coning, it's usually their breath is going in the opposite way. So they're either inhaling on the harder part instead of the easier part of an exercise, or they're just using all their force to push out in their stomach rather than using their exhale to bring their core in and together. If you feel any pressure pushing outward or see doming, coning, that's your cue to adjust. That shows that they can then become more confident in like learning about themselves, so that they have cues that they're like, oh, I do see coning in this movement. I need a modification for this. Can you help me with this? Can you help me with different cues for this? So it's like you setting them up to search for some of these symptoms that could be showing. When you're modifying them, instead of just being like, you can't do that exercise, you're coning a lot. Let's say, hey, let's elevate you here. You can still train your core. Let's just do it without some downward pressure. Or let's hit the same exercise. We're just going to do it with a little bit more support on your core. And that could be like for an incline on a plank position, or if they're in a regular plank and you want to bring them to tabletop. So it's the same thing. You're doing it. We're just going to give you a little bit more support here, so it's more effective for you. Breath, support, and effectiveness are going to be the top 3 words that you can use for core. It gives the member confidence and realizes that it's not that they're doing something unsafe. It's just going to be more effective for them. For coaching strength exercises, there's not a ton of strength exercises that you're really going to need to modify unless it's like a plank position, like a pull-up, some of the exercises that do create a lot of intra-abdominal pressure. So a member might not automatically think, hey, this exercise needs to be modified at this point. But you as a trainer should just always be looking out. If you see any coning or if they feel uncomfortable, a lot of times a strength exercise will need modifications because a low back feels like it's a lot of pressure, or they see some pressure outwards in their core. So we're not avoiding strength, we're just shifting your focus so that you have more control over the effort. They can lift heavy. If someone tells you they can only lift 25 pounds, or if that's what their doctor said, say, if you're comfortable with that, great. If you feel like you can go heavier, sure, let's try it. I'm right here with you. But you want to keep them strong and stable, aware of their core. Make sure you say that. That was like the biggest thing when I was coaching anyone during pregnancy in the studio, is that most people aren't aware that their core is working in a strength exercise. Like, your core is always working, whether you're breathing or whether you're trying to keep yourself stable in a movement. When you're pulling, exercise, pushing, your core is working. So make sure that they're aware of that, and make sure they can exhale on the effort, which protects their core. So stability, strength, or strong, and support are going to be like 3 main terms you can use for strength exercises, especially when cueing or modifying. And cardio exercises, it's less of intensiveness. They can go 60 to 80%. Some people go 100% of their maximum effort, and then they pause and they take a big break, but it's fine either way. But I would usually aim members to say 60 to 80%, and then we can scale. So say we can build endurance. You don't have to sprint to the finish line today. We'll see how you go. You can pick up the pace later on in class if you feel comfortable. Make sure you're breathing deeply. Again, just like strength and core exercises, breath is going to be key during cardio. It's less in your brain, like inhale on the easy part, exhale on the hard part, because a lot of times you're moving so quickly, you don't even think about it. So your pelvic floor is going to move automatically as is, but you just want to make sure you mention, hey, let's breathe through these exercises. If a member says that they are dizzy, they have pain, pressure down, coning or doming, that's usually an indication that they do need a modification. So let's say, hey, let's pause and adjust. Your body is giving you feedback. It's going to keep them confident and be like, oh, I'm on the lookout for that myself. Not like, I can't do this. It's just, this is feedback that we might need to modify. We can adjust your positioning. We can adjust for extra support. And there are 2 core specific workouts that we're going to modify. One is a Russian twist, feet up, super hard. The weighted movement from side to side, we want to try and avoid hitting too heavy of a weight when you're moving and twisting your torso when you're pregnant. It just puts a lot of pressure out on your center core. If they're not coning or doming, it's probably safe, especially the first, early second trimester. But if you see like later second trimester, third, I would definitely adjust this movement. A couple ways you can do it: drop your feet to the ground and just do body weight with a Russian twist. That's a little bit safer, more effective for them. But also thread the needle. So we're coming into a side plank. You can come all the way up into your side. And then this, it's body weight at the torso twisting. So it's going to be a little bit more effective for them. Or you can come onto the side plank with your knees down and hit it that way. Or you can do a kneeling wood chop, so they can still have the plate at the same station, but they are in a kneeling position, and you're going to come from one side to the other. So same exercise, same core work. It's just a little bit more effective and more supportive for you, okay? These are a toughie. A sit-up with a weight. This is hard for like majority of people, but when you're pregnant, this just literally sometimes feels impossible. You don't want to get the member down for not being able to do this. You just want to support them a little bit better. As I said before, you want to try and keep members using the same equipment at a station as possible, just so it's easier on you, less equipment on the floor, but it keeps them feeling like they're doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. So you can do toe taps with a plate. Here you can do 2 heels down at the same time. Is a little bit more challenging. You can go full range of motion if they feel comfortable, as low as they can. And then a standing march. So you can do a plate overhead and you come up one at a time. Make sure they exhale to bring their knee up. So it really uses their core to engage those muscles to bring your knee up. This is a push-up with their hands coming off the ground. Not only are we not trying to lay on our stomach when we're pregnant, especially at a pace like this, which is wild to me, and leaving those hands from the ground. But there are a couple ways that we can modify this. One is bringing it into an incline position. So you have a bench or one of the boxes you can bring over to those stations. I would do this before class or before a member gets to that station. You can still do the incline. You can add a shoulder tap. So instead of taking your hands off of the ground, you're just hitting a shoulder tap there. You can come down to your knees, do the same thing. If they are a little bit stronger, you can have them come down to their knees all together and just take it a knee push-up with a shoulder tap instead. Okay, so burpee, it's not a full burpee, it's like a half burpee. But again, you can still come into an incline here. Same thing. They could even jump at the top, coming back. You just want to make sure you cue their form when they're coming into this position. This jump back is the easiest place that I've seen people cone a lot in the center. It's like they're not keeping their core nice and controlled here. So make sure you just cue that. Just be like, hey, it's still like a plank position. You're still working your core a lot. Make sure as you jump back, you feel comfortable. They can always step it in, step it out. You can do a step in, step out burpee like any other modification. If they don't have the incline or don't need it, they can still step it in and step it out. And then lastly, kettlebell swings. A lot of people don't need a real modification for too early on in pregnancy. It probably gets to the third trimester in general, if I'm being very general about it, is when you'll see this does put a lot of pressure on core. So what I would do is cue them, one, see how their core feels. If they're like, I don't feel comfortable doing this to begin with, give them modification. Or if they do feel comfortable, just be like, let's see how your core feels. And then we can work through a slight modification if we need it. So I would just do regular and then reset in between each rep. That means that they are really aware of their core each and every time they're exhaling on the effort, inhaling big to reset, and then you're coming right back into it. That makes it more effective for the majority of members. Or you can just do a clean and they can alternate sides. That's still will hit cardio, still same equipment, and not a whole lot of room that they need either. So those are like two really easy modifications for kettlebell swings as you go through it. But again, most members don't really need it until a little bit later, or if they're just not aware of their core, make sure you give them that awareness cue. A couple things for the member. Make sure you just say, hey, if anything comes up between classes, let me know. I've got you. Make sure they are aware that they can feel their body. So it brings awareness. Sometimes they're like super, super tired the next day. Sometimes they're really painful or like in pain or tight. That might be a sign that they need to scale back a little bit. So make sure they're just aware of that. Just feel like anything uncomfortable during class. If anything comes up between classes, you let me know. Let me know how you feel after this and after a night's sleep. Next time we can build up from here to keep you progressing. I think that's like a term that we can use or a phrase that we can use so that if a member is early and they're like, oh, I actually felt great the next day and I still feel good during class, then you're like, let's actually scale it up. You might not need all the modifications, or maybe you can pick out the pace for certain exercises. I'm here to help you. Make sure they're just bringing awareness to their body, how they're feeling. But again, reassuring them and encouraging them, you did awesome today. How did everything feel? And then for the member themselves, also encourage them to watch my pre and postnatal workshop. We can send that out. Like some members want to know as much as they can on their own, and some don't care at all. They just want to show up to class and you tell them what to do. So if a member's like, oh, can you tell me more? Can I learn more? Make sure you send them this link or tell your studio manager or front desk person to send them a link to this workshop. It goes through like tons of modifications, what feels safe for them, what feels effective for them, how they can work through pregnancy at the studio itself. And then you can encourage them if they're like, what can I do between now and then, between now and the next class? You can tell them to work on breathing. Breathing is always going to be the most effective thing for members to practice because you can do that anywhere. So breathing in different positions, you can breathe in tabletop, you can be in a sideline position, you can breathe on your back, you can stand and breathe, and just work on what an inhale and an exhale looks like and how you can hug your baby in, pulling your core up and in at the same time. And that's something you guys as coaches can practice as well. You can show them, demo it. And yeah, and make sure you tell them, please come early next time to class so we can give you some demos. That's going to be way easier on you and for them, because then they feel better going into class instead of like them showing up halfway through demos are going. So come early next time. Always come early. I got you covered. And then I'm just going to show this for you. So I'm 22, I think 22 pregnant. I'm just going to show you what it looks like. I had this in here, but this is an inhale, exhale. So a big inhale for me. My rib cage is expanding out sideways, forward, and backwards. And then on the exhale, you're going to watch my belly button. My belly button is going to come. So first it goes in and then it goes up. You're going to feel it raise up a little bit here. Big inhale, exhale, watch. Okay, pretty cool. And then coning. All right, so I'm coning a little bit right here. There's going to be a big ridge right down the center core for me. This is me not engaging my core at all properly. If I'm going to reset, big inhale, exhale, I'm going to pull my core up and in. I'm going to do the same exercise, no more coning. Okay, so that is the cue, or we always want to be able to keep members safe and feel like they're supported in their core. So coning, just be aware of that. And then that is a good way to just be like, it is possible with proper breath. And when you know what you're doing, most people can pull their core up and in well. Thank you all for joining. This was fun. If there's any extra feedback, if you're like, I want to know more modifications or more help with specific things members will tell you or want to address, let us know. We can set up another workshop as well. I'm sure other people want to hear it and see it. So yeah.